Hey, hello everybody. Welcome to ENCO's webinar about our DAD and WebDAD product. I'm Bill Bennett and I'm going to be your moderator for today. And we're joined by a couple of ENCO's expert product sales and engineering folks here to talk about and show you about DAD and WebDAD. And it will be a bit of an introduction to some of you of our products, and for some of you, a reintroduction of it, because this stuff has been around since the mid 80s. We've been just evolving it and adding a lot to it over the decades and making it better than ever. And so there's no doubt some things on it that you may not have known about for a while. So these folks are going to be great showing it to you. First, on the west coast of the U.S. in Portland, Oregon, we have Aaron. Hello, Aaron.
Hi there.
How's the weather out there?
Hey, actually, it's great today. We're almost going to hit 70.
That is totally not what we've got here in Pittsburgh. It is, we're talking snowflakes. Speaking of
Uh-oh.
snowflakes, our headquarters are in Novi, Michigan. And that's where Tiffany Doyle is. Tiff, how's the weather up there?
Hi, nice to be here. It's actually about low 40s here today. Little windy, but we got some potential snow on the way overnight tonight. So nothing like going from 70 yesterday to 40 today.
I love these transitions of seasons.
Yeah.
So a couple of housekeeping notes for y'all. We're going to try to keep it at about 45 minutes, but if your Q&A keeps it going longer, all the better. We're here for you. So after an hour, we might start nodding off, but hopefully won't get you there that long or that boring. The webinar will be recorded, so that if you need to look at it at a later point, we will be sending out a link to it later, but it will be a public forum for later public consumption again. And some of you, if you're not familiar with the GoToWebinar interface, notice that there are kind of some handles around the GUI for it that you can drag windows, make them bigger and smaller. Some customers have commented that they like to know that, so that you can change the size of the presentation window perhaps, and get rid of the webcams because you don't want to look at us. Also, if there is a dock in the corner that up in the upper left or upper right, if you only see that red arrow, that means the dock has been reduced. You'll need to click that to bring it back into full size so you can access the widgets in there. And so that is it. Without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Aaron, and then me and Tiff are just going to kind of disappear for a while, and but we will be back. Aaron, it's all yours, my friend.
All right. Thanks, Bill. And thanks, everyone, for taking part in today's webinar. Um, so the first thing I just wanted to give you is just a brief overview of basically of DAD. So just one thing to note, we serve all different types of customers, large and small, for-profit and non-profit. So we try to fit as many different types of workflows and be as flexible as I know, many of your workflows are. So be it, like I said, a small, large station. The other thing too, is just to note is that we work with many different partners of ours. So like, for example, if you're an audio over IP, WheatNet, Livewire, Dante, we serve that. If you're using, an analog console, we work with that also. So the basics of our system, a Windows platform, Windows 10 specifically. The basic concept is we try to make, when you add something in one place, it shows up where appropriate in the other. So let's say somebody's in the production room, they're adding the voice tracks to today's playlist or log. Those will show up in the playlist without having to do any kind of refresh. So if somebody forgets, they're not going to have that worry of, oh, did my voice tracks make it to the playlist? So on the screen right now, you're looking at just one piece of DAD. It's called Presenter. It's our on-air interface. So this is primarily where all of the on-air playout is going to occur. The basic idea of Presenter is having all of the different applications available on one screen. So you'll see on the left-hand side here, the stack of 6 slots, the top one being on the air currently, and the 5 following are what's coming up next. And if you want to get a look at the full total days playlist, though, there's the application within the presenter interface. So right now, currently, I have the presenter interface or the playlist showing in the upper right-hand screen. So you can basically, the way I have it set up right now, there's 2 different work areas in Presenter with 8 different applications. So I had my playlist up here, and I can have, let's say I would want my library down below, so I can look at all the different content within the system. Everything within Presenter also is drag and droppable. So if I wanted to go into a particular category or what we call groups, I can, in my library, I can click on my commercials group, and let's say I need to make a quick addition. Just simply drag and drop it over, and my Listerine ad is now ready for playout. You'll see here in the library application, there's the ability to create as many different groups as you want to, name them what you want to, and color coordinate them the way you want to. One of the things we've tried to do with Presenter is make it as easy to see what's playing now on the air. You'll see the buttons right now. The way I have the screen set up is it's color coordinated with whatever is going to be coming up or going out over the air. So for example, my commercials are green, my music is blue, and my liners are yellow. So I can see visually coming up what is going to be coming and playing next. Some of the other applications within our system, arrays. So there's 2 array panels. Basically, these are hotkeys where you can load up with audio. There's 16 different pages, and you can name them whatever you would like. But basically, in the end, it's like where you want to play out all of your unscheduled items. So be it a bed for weather, or just a sound effect, or a liner, for example, jingle. In my case here, I brought my jingles page up. You'll see also a countdown timer. All those kinds of things you'd expect are within the presenter interface. One of the other great things about the system too, let's say you have a case where you usually do a live show, but you need to do voice tracks coming up in the next hour or so. Well, we have the voice tracker built into our playlist application also. So all we have to do is choose where we want to do a voice track, click on that place, click the tracker button, and it'll bring up the corresponding audio. I'll be able to record my voice track, and then when I'm finished with that particular track, then I can edit that audio, pull it over. I can adjust the volume, adjust fade in and fade out. All of those different things can be done. As you can see, this I pulled over the yellow block here. This will allow for the fade in of the next song. I can audition it, save it, and as soon as it's saved, it's going to be ready for playback. The other thing too, the presenter has been designed to be touchscreen friendly. So things like dragging and dropping different elements is very easy. I can drag the different pieces of audio in my stack, and also easy to audition items throughout Presenter. When I click on this speaker button in the lower left-hand corner, I can listen to the head of the audio, the tail of the audio. I can read, and then I can re-cue it also. So if I can listen, you'll hear it scrubbing in your audition or cue channel, and then when I hit the cue, it's going to be re-cued in that position. It's not a full-time edit, but just while it's in this playlist. Throughout the system too, there are the ability, of course, to record. There's 4 record decks in total in DAD. There's 1 here in Presenter. So if you need to do a quick recording, like an interview or a phone conversation, you'll be able to do that very quickly. There's other features, of course, like what we call as play logs. So within Presenter, you can look at the logs of what is played previously. You can also keep track of what's been skipped and then get a basic play history of what's gone out or what's been reported. The other very cool thing is, like most everything else in our system, it's drag and droppable. So if you see something, oh, I missed a commercial, You know, so once let's say I fixed a commercial, I can take that and drag it and drop it and make it, get it back on the air. Also within the system, I'm opening up the library right now. You'll see throughout it, there's a built-in editor. So if I wanted to edit a piece of audio, I can do it while I'm on the air. So if I need to do some basic, you know, adjusting heads and tails, fade in and fade out, all those different kinds of things, I can do that. Within the library, now that I have it open, you'll see it's structured much like in other areas. You'll see the tabs on top. Actually, I should bring up my search. Let me bring up my search really quickly here. So search, the structure is very much the same. You'll see the categories on top here. You can also see the metadata associated with each piece of the audio also. And so we can make the search as wide or as narrow as necessary. So we can search within, you know, the whole library, or just a small, you know, part. We can narrow down that search how you'd like. The other very cool thing too is everything is sortable, both in the library and the search. So if we wanted to put it in order of length, or in the or in alphabetical order according to title, just click on that field and then it'll put it in order for you. Getting into some of the more production areas. So all of the different tools we have within the presenter interface, there's standalone versions also. So if, like for production rooms, or even other places like, let's say, the sales office, we have different bundles to fit the bill there. So like in the library, there's a standalone library. Within the library, this is where, of course, all the different content is going to be. All of the different categories will show as tabs on the top of the library. To go into, let's say, a particular category, we just click on the tab, then we can double click on an item, and then this is where all the metadata is stored. There's over 80 different pieces of data that you can keep. There's also 10 user customizable tabs available. So if you have a piece of data that we don't actually, you know, by default, you can create that yourself. On the right-hand side of the screen is basically how the audio is going to play. So it'll numerically show, you know, where the audio is going to start, where it's going to end, all of the fade in and fade out information, and then also like things like active dates and kill dates. Then we also have active times and kill times, and then the ability to be active certain days of the week, and then also hours of the day. And there's other playout information here too, as far as playtime. We can do stretch and shrink. Even without supporting audio boards or audio over IP. We have a application called ENCO Sound, so we can do the same kind of stretch and shrink and other kind of processing that would be done on a supported audio card that has the processing built on it. The other thing too, there's also many other tools. So if you click on playlists, for example, within WebDAD, you'll be able to edit all of your different playlists that you have stored on the system. And basically, also you'll be able to do voice tracking. We call it fast track. So basically, it's a one button voice tracker. So you can go into wherever you like in Presenter, wherever you have it highlighted. You'll go in, record your voice tracks. Once you've done that, also one of the things very cool about it is you can schedule voice tracks. So when you click on next, it'll go to the next scheduled spot. So that's also available. And you can also add other elements, another voice track, you know, put two different voice tracks together, or add another piece of audio to a voice track. Gives you a lot of flexibility. Also, quickly, you know, the ability to ingest, very simple in our system. Basically, it's all very much a drag and drop idea, if you have a thumb drive or audio within the computer, it's just drag and drop to get it in the computer. You'll have the menus pop up that allow you to ingest the metadata, and then put it where you want to. The other thing too is you can set this up on different user rights, so you can like give certain users the ability to do things and other people, not to. For example, one of the biggest things is like maybe for certain users, you wouldn't want the ability to have them overwrite something or delete something. So you can give those kinds of user rights. There's also a built-in scheduler within our system called Ensemble. So basically, it's a clock building tool and then also it gives you some very quite powerful scheduling features, the ability to create rules. So once you create all of your different clocks, you can create rules for different items within your clock. So you can have, I have like very basic ones here, an artist and title separation. So both of these I have at 2 hours, but you can basically make a rule based on a piece of data. So be it genre, the title, artist information, even like tempo and things like that, you can make rules for. The other thing just to touch on too, we have built in within our like on-air license, there is the ability to get out data for things like RDS. So this, I just brought up our application Patapult. Patapult allows you to export data, like, a lot of times it's what's playing now information. It can be also scheduled information though, based on time. So if you have a show at 9 to noon, you can have the so-and-so show. And then also, so if it's like music, they can also have it interspersed with what's playing now information. But it can be also used for website streams, other pieces, other hardware. It can be used in many different ways. The other thing too is, with DAD, the ability is there to do visual radio in various different ways. But basically, in the end, we try to give you all the different tools to make it as easy for the users and as hassle-free as possible for the admin, engineers, and all the people like looking after it. Make it as easy on them to do what they need to do. The other thing too, just wanted to get out there is that just the different types of workflows, just to touch on that, is that we support the ability to run our system within a virtual machine. So we have our platform that allows for virtualization. So there's if you're looking to virtualize or run in a traditional, peer-to-peer or client server kind of setup, we can work within that workflow. If you have any questions, throughout this, please let us know. I kind of waited too long within the demo to put out there, but we really do encourage questions
We do,
throughout this webinar.
We sure do. And Aaron, thank you. Wow, that is, I mean, and I know you could go on for hours about so much detail and so much customization within the DAD environment.
Right.
It's endless.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. I mean, we have like, oh, go ahead, Bill, sorry.
Yeah, no, we have a couple of questions here. Fred asks, do you have an option, option of mentions piping up on the presenter interface? Might be a typo in there.
There is the ability to, within the presenter, you basically can have messages pop up according to like one of the popular things, is you could have a message, pop up for certain events. You can, one of the other things too that kind of covers this area is, let's say you have a commercial break coming up, you could have in the just before the commercial break, have a message, saying that, or you could have it, this is kind of like a tally kind of situation where you can say you're going live right now. Yeah, those kind of messages you can definitely have shown.
Cool, cool. And Evan has a question about sound cards and interfaces. Do we have any that we particularly recommend
Um,
that we like, or also may not like, may not be compatible?
so wait, it's actually cut out for a second. Could you read the question again?
Are there any sound cards or interfaces that we particularly recommend?
Yeah, I mean, in the audio card, I would say, 90% of our 90% of the time it's audio science. But
ASI. Okay, right. Yeah.
yeah, we also support Digigram. They're kind of going through some model changes right now, but we anticipate still to, they're going to be going from one line to another. So there's going to be a bit of a transition time, but our intention is, to support those as well. Those are the two biggest ones, but in general, if it works in Windows, it'll work with us. Of course, we recommend, getting a professional audio card, or other device. But there's like many other devices we work with. It can be USB in certain applications where they're looking to go portable. So things like YellowTech, Puck2s, and other devices. Really, there's a wide range there.
Okay. Okay. Cool. And we've got a few more adding up here. So got one from Ken. He's wondering, and this is a great question. When we talk about virtualization, does that mean running the server off-site? And of course, Tiffany is going to go deep into the WebDAD product, which is an element of virtualization, enabling web access through off of a local area network or over a wide area network into ENCO. But can you speak a little bit more to that, Aaron?
Yeah, so the virtualization, it can be done in a couple different ways. It can be done off-site. There are limitations there though with bandwidth, especially if you're going to be doing live events and having all of those different audio elements going out to the cloud and back again and all those different things. So usually though, in a virtual environment, the server will be local, but there's definitely exceptions to that. There's one of our products is called DAD DR. Basically, it's a DAD that's living in the cloud, and then Tiffany will speak to it. You'll have access to that system through our web interface, WebDAD. And we'll have with DAD-DR, what basically you'll be pushing out information like throughout a schedule of all of the different data that's on the library, the playlist, all of that kind of thing will be updated throughout the day. So if you do have a problem, we can fail over to the cloud, and so you're never, basically never down.
That's
So
cool.
I would
Yeah,
say,
resilient, right? That
yeah.
option. Yeah.
Mhm.
The out another question here, audio drivers, IP audio drivers. Tom's wondering, and I know myself that certainly we can work with any kind of AOIP middleware. So
Yeah.
Axio, WheatNet. For some reason, if you had to interface with maybe Dante or certainly AES67, Ravenna,
Right.
all of those
Absolutely.
Windows compatible middlewares we can
Right.
connect with. Yeah. Yeah. And
Absolutely.
that's an elegant solution when you can do that.
Absolutely.
Three more for you, Aaron. So no relaxing yet. And Howard's asking if you're able to, with your setup right there, the way we've got it configured, can you demonstrate inserting an item into the voice track? He's been interested in adding a music bed and hasn't been able to insert one and
Sure.
control the levels. So
Sure. I mean, I should be able to show that. So we'll go into our playlist modify application, basically open up our playlist, and I have mine in a particular group, which I should have prepared better for. So it's all. Let me go to one I know. I'll go to like today's playlist that I have up on my demo. So basically, go fast track, and then one of the so if you wanted to add an element, like another voice track to a current voice track, basically you just click on add element and it'll add a second track. If you're looking just to, let me delete that real quick. If you just click on production element. And then we're going to basically then we can go either put a cut directly within this box here, or we can go to select cut, and then it'll open up our mini playlist or our library, I should say, interface, and then we can just like click on that. Actually, I brought up on a not a good one here. Let me do, because this is on a different library with a different format. Let me go to music here. Let me go to commercials actually. And then we can load that particular, the reason why it's not adding is I don't have anything in this voice track, but basically all we have to do is put in, there we go. But basically if load up the event or load up the voice track and then production element and then select cut, we'll do it.
Okay. Okay, cool. Martin, or actually Logan has a quick question. Do you have an option to see how many times a cut plays per week? And I think you talked about we have the as run logs, so the answer would be yes.
Yes,
Right?
and then
Pretty finely granular as runs at that.
right, and that's one thing I didn't mention. Yeah, so in the library, there's extensive reports that are kept. So when you go into the reports, there's what we call the as play, and these are where all of them are kept. You can also see within, and then you can also customize these any way you want to, these reports. So any piece of data that's in our library database can be put into a report, and then they can also be customized to have like the rows delineated any way you want to. Basically, so these reports will be able to be exportable and be ready to send to whatever reporting agency or just for internal use or for reconciliation with traffic, all those kinds of things.
Cool. Cool. Jumping back to music beds and tracking, a couple questions related. Garrett's asking, is it possible to have two separate elements play on top of a music bed? The scenario in question will be a news vocal and then a separate tagline during the length of a music bed to kind of brand it out or something.
Right. So the way we would want to do that is we can bring up our editor within the system, but yes, basically what we'd be doing in that case is we would be looking where we would want the segue to the next piece of audio. So when we click on this, here's all the different type of markers we'd have. So we would want to say, where do we want the next, let's say this is a bed, we can say, okay, we want the next element to start somewhere here, let's say. And then, so when this is in a playlist, at the head of the segue, it's going to play that introduction, and it's still, if you have all the different fade in and fade out markers set up correctly, and the segue marker set up correctly, you'll be able to have that next, let's say the introduction, play over the bed.
Okay, cool. And actually, the kind of related here, let's see. Oh, this is a great list. Ken actually has a clarification of immediately, not automatically, to his question here, and that is song history. Does the last play date update immediately as opposed to automatically? Does it update immediately?
It does, yeah. And the other thing I was going to mention, but I forgot, is that you can see when the last playtime was, and it'll, as soon as it happens, it'll say within this the last play date, it'll show up here. And then you can also go into in various places and see within a grid when it actually played
Cool.
last and throughout the the playout history. So you can like go back as far as you'd like and see when it played.
Cool, cool. And by the way, for some of you, there's 7 more questions here. Some of these are going to be answered in Tiffany's piece coming up on the WebDAD product in just a minute. So forgive me if we don't answer them in this segment, because in a few minutes you'll see the answers before your eyes. So I'm just kind of cultivating between these for Aaron's part and Tiffany's. Aaron, quick question: FTP. Is there an FTP import option for shows?
Yes, there is. There is an option for that. It's called end conveyor, sorry, but end conveyor basically does that, and it also allows so you to set up rules, and then at particular days it can go out, look, and when they see something new, it'll pull in that new show or shows, and then import them into the library ready for playback. So you can have it set up to go directly where you want it to in the library. So it's it's a hands-off thing and then
automatic, yeah.
Totally, yeah.
Cool. And now Martin's got a question that you probably don't want to give too much detail and more of a technical piece, but
Right.
generally, how do you figure the sound cards? How is that kind of done in general?
Well, like when we put together a quote, like always one of the first questions we ask is, what kind of console do you have? Are you looking to update? And then, then the other thing is like, what are the on-air people what are they used to? Are they used to having, 2 or 3 different faders that they're going to use for playout, to go to air? So, basically, it could be anywhere from, 2 stereo outputs to, people would want 4 stereo outputs, kind of depending on people's preference and workflow.
So, okay, cool. I'm just going to allude because Howard's got a great question that Tiv's about to get to, with COVID making the ability to track so valuable, remotely, that he's been wishing for a simple editor that allows to do that. There's splice a couple of things together, maybe, and so I think Tiv will have some nice stuff to show you there.
Yeah.
And we also talked about, because Tom had a question about remote voice tracking. Yep, that's really kind of part of what Tiv's got coming up. And somebody had a great question about automation earlier on. Bill asked about how do the branch and DCL commands display in presenter? Is there a way to hide them in a manual mode to get them off the screen if they don't matter?
Yeah, there is the ability to do that in the configuration. You can set it up so they don't show.
Okay, great. And I think the rest of these here are related to Tiv's WebDAD part. Let's see. Okay, cool. And if anyone else has any other questions that come up specifically for Aaron, we'll have a Q&A after Tiv's part for kind of for both of the folks here. So now, without further ado, Aaron, thank you for all of your time on that.
Yeah, no problem.
You know it extremely well. I always am grateful when we do a webinar because I keep watching what you're doing so I can learn more about it. So
definitely, he's the master.
And there's, by the way, Aaron's contact information if anyone wanted to get a hold of him directly, because he knows everything about that.
Well, I don't know about that.
Okay, well, way more than I do. You guys, yeah, okay. So, because we have a great automated captioning product, highly accurate AI kind of thing that I'm really into. So that's kind of where my head is a lot these days. But Tiff,
Yes.
you've been playing with something. You've just been surfing the web all day, haven't you?
Yeah.
Surfing the web with this thing called WebDAD, which is that's a very slick application, HTML5 compliant, and I'm already stealing your thunder. So let me make you the presenter here. And feel free to ask for questions along the way. And everyone, when you're engaging in your presentation, if you have a question, just enter it in the box, and she and I both can see them piling up when you have them in there. And there you go. So Tiff, without further ado,
let me show the correct monitor.
I like that background you had there.
Yeah, on the air always, right?
Definitely, that's the goal. Absolutely.
All right, I'm going to pull this down and get that out of the way. Okay, so can everyone, Bill, everyone can see the WebDAD interface?
Yep, it looks like reading 5x5 here. So.
All right, perfect. So essentially, I wanted to make sure everyone could see that you all could see the login page. So when this comes up, I think it's just important to know there are username and passwords you can set up. So anybody who's going to use the WebDAD platform, you can set up specific user profiles. And then there are some things which I'll touch on here in a bit, where you can set up some different securities features. So depending on the user, what you want them to be able to access or not, which is actually a really nice feature depending on the level of access or allowances you want people to have. So once you have that in here, go ahead and log in. Oh, hold on one second. There we go. Okay. So when this comes up, we've got our library view. That's the pretty standard view you're going to come into on WebDAD. And a lot of this is set up to be familiar to you. A lot of the drop-down menus are here instead of things stacked left to right, but essentially the same idea. So if you have multiple libraries set up, you can actually click in and have access to those through the WebDAD platform to make sure you're working within the correct library, managing the library, creating playlists, and so on. We also have all the different groups that you may have created within the DAD system because it's accessing that database directly. And you can come in and pull up, let's see, different commands that we programmed in here. That is a nice feature that you have, even though WebDAD's intention is more front-end control, not necessarily back-end config, but you can definitely have some different options there. And I'll talk about that when I show you the array panels. But yeah, so you can pull up different groups and focus in there, pull up all of them, see everything. You can actually modify the way that all this looks as well. You can cut out different elements or add them in based on all of the metadata within the system. The DAD system as a whole, I should say. And so you can add them in or keep it very, very simple. We essentially have 7 highlighted here, so you can see everything across. And if you notice, I actually have this on 100 per page. You can slim that down and just have 20, and then you can page over to navigate your library. You can modify cuts specifically. So if you have things you just want to override a cut because you have new audio just to put in that and it's programmed within your day's playlist, you can do that. Simply go in, choose files, and then go in to upload different audio and making sure it's compatible. WAV and MP3 are what you need to have for your library in order for WebDAD to be able to ingest it, just as a side note there. Setting format rate, etc. And then you can actually enter in metadata if you would like to. All of the metadata that exists in the DAD system is also here in WebDAD, so that you can do a lot of that control, all of the different timing. So start and kill dates, days of the week, hours of the day, you can set those within the WebDAD platform. And then there's other here as well that you can actually enter if that's kind of part of your process and your operation. You can add brand new cuts. Again, same kind of concept, setting all the metadata. You can come in and actually delete out of the library, which again, being directly connected to your database. That's one thing I always tell people, think about this. And this is one area where we will often see clients set user restrictions or securities so that this delete button is actually non-functional depending on the user and profile. So that is something that is possible to do within WebDAD. There are some other securities features that you can set up, and our development and programming people are constantly working on that to ensure control and, again, not to overuse it, but security for the system. And again, it's simple. It comes up, do you want to delete selected records? Yes or no. And then you can actually, and you see how it pops up to let you know what you have or haven't done. Playout. And you can actually see the waveforms. You can kind of get an idea visually of the volume within that. And then there is a basic editor. So this is meant more to set, say, heads and tails, fades, and different things like that, which you can actually set these based on these this little green section here, and setting up heads and tails. You can go in and set your fades, do segues, and so on. So it's basic editing. It's not super complex. It's not something you're going to be able to go in and process down the audio specifically within WebDAD, but it's nice to have that feature so you can continue controlling that. I'm going to take you into the playlist here and show you, I think, the piece de la resistance that everybody wants to know about, which would be creating, editing, and voice tracking your playlists. So you can absolutely create playlists fresh in WebDAD. You can also go in, see all the playlists that are available, and we're going to click in, let's see, we'll go in here. Okay, so now on the top here, this is actually representing the playlist that I'm looking at, and I can drop this down again, maybe get a nicer view where I have voice tracking, what different things I have in here, songs and other elements. And then down below is the library so that you can actually see. So if I wanted to say, I'm going to add in a please stand by, and I can come up and I can click here and I can say, go ahead and insert selected cut. And now we have please stand by. And you can continue to do that to really hone in that playlist. The next item here that I'll show you is going in and actually doing the voice tracking. Hit the tracker button here once you highlight where you'd like to put that voice track in. And you can see again, this should look familiar to those of you who are DAD users. If not, the idea again is to replicate the DAD system as a whole so you're comfortable with it. We have the option here and have built in the fast track feature. So it's very nice. So it'll play the outro of the cut that we're ending on. I start my recording and we're going to see, we can see my voice is picking up there, start the intro to the next song. We stop it, and now we see the voice track exists here. The nice feature too, and something that is fantastic to have here, is actually we can move it around. So if you need to make any adjustments, you can do that. You can also come down and grab this little green bar here, which is going to allow you to maybe drag over and quiet down the intro to this Come Monday Weekend or whatever the next song or element is, so that you don't necessarily have to add time to your playlist. So that's a nice feature and function that you have. You know, again, you can do things like zoom out and kind of see how to get a little more fine tuning in there, zoom in to really see, you know, what you might want to do. Again, if I say, you know what, I'm not loving it, I can go ahead and delete that VO out. I can clean this back up and say, maybe I can make this a little bit tighter. Okay. And that is essentially how the tracker works. I'm going to go ahead and get another recording in here. And so we can actually see when I save this down, okay, and I come out of it. So we're going to go ahead and drop this back open, and we see right here, there's my voice track. And one of the cool things, and I like to mention this because operator error is common. Doesn't matter how many years you have experience in a studio and feel like you know it by the, you know, everything like the back of your hand. If you try to get out of this and I go over here and I hit library, the system's not letting me go anywhere. And if I could see people's hands go up, I'm sure someone would say, you haven't saved it yet. So it's not going to let you make moves throughout WebDAD until you actually save this. Now that I save, I come back out, and if I wanted to, I could go back in here and I could just double check that we actually see it saved, and there it is again. So that's just one of the nice features there, especially within creating playlists and being able to voice track remotely. We do have the access for you to get into your playback decks within WebDAD. So if you cannot tap into your system or get on site, WebDAD has the functionality, and you can see this bar moving along here showing you different progress, and it shows you what's playing, shows you the specific playlist that has been loaded into the playback deck, and you can even go in and take a look at things so you can actually see what's coming up in the playlist that's loaded. Again, going into different playback decks, and you can actually do this remotely. So that's another feature that is very helpful. I had mentioned that you actually can manipulate the arrays or do a couple of different things, even though you don't have back-end access through WebDAD. If you do have, speaking of those DCLs or commands, if you do have something where you do switching or switching over to different feeds, pulling in satellite, stuff like that, you can actually, if you have already programmed in the array panel some different commands that you want to be able to access in case, let's say, something doesn't fire off or you want to be able to manually switch something over. If it's already programmed in the arrays through the main DAD system, you can pull it up in WebDAD and actually click that button and fire that off, and it will do that for you. So you can't necessarily program it through WebDAD, but if you have that already programmed within the DAD system, it is accessible through WebDAD. You can assign things to these in here, and I go assign, I click, I can go into my different library, different categories, and I say, I want to go ahead and get this cat sound in here, and I'm going to go ahead and accept it. It's shown up, and I can verify. I can change the coloration of this, and I can delete things out of the array panel as well. And you do have access to both of the mini array panels through WebDAD. And kind of lastly here, as far as WebDAD is concerned, as an overview, you do have access to your presenter interface. There are a couple of ways that we can set up WebDAD. And there is an option where it doesn't necessarily point to, if you will, the presenter and give somebody remote control over presenter, but you can set it up in order to do so. So currently, we do not have it to where you can go live through the WebDAD platform over the air. However, because of the voice tracking capabilities and also within this presenter interface in WebDAD, because you can come in here and have things programmed in your arrays, you can stop your playlist from the WebDAD interface, and then you can actually come in and fire off different things in the array panel. That could be cuts that are voice based. Those could be, again, whatever you might want. You're mixing things up, and you can see all of that. You can see your library and actually navigate through that. You can see the day's playlist and actually check on everything lining up that you expect to be there. You can stop the playlist, you can skip it forward, and so on. So there's a lot of different things that WebDAD will allow you to do and give you type of control to keep the continuity of your sound over the air or through your main playout signal that is desired, especially whether it's pandemic related or someday when we're back in conferences and able to actually travel a bit more, something where you can go in and check on things. A vital tool that is also accessible through any device that gets the internet and a Chrome browser. So that is a key right there. So I want to make sure that everybody, it's not OS specific. You can pull WebDAD up on Apple products, different Windows products, laptops, desktops, tablets. You can technically access it through your phone, depending on different, accessibility. If you have a VPN set up, different security features there. But WebDAD is going to be your audio that you voice track in through the WebDAD platform is going to be dependent on your audio on the device you're using. So I know many people might have us audiophiles, right? And audio junkies might have a setup where at home we have a nice mixer board and if not, at least a decent mic, a high quality microphone, and we can set it up so that audio is top notch. Otherwise, you are beholden to the device. But they're coming out with not only have cameras improved, but the microphones built into many laptops and desktops have improved. I always recommend people look for maybe a USB microphone alternative that gives a decent enough sound to be able to get that quality audio in to the system. And lastly, the manual. It's kind of a staple that we always have the manual accessible, and it is something where you can come in here and it's only 19 pages. Those of you who have seen the DAD manual know that that is significantly larger for many reasons, but this is here so that you can reference it and actually kind of dig into the WebDAD itself a little bit more.
Cool. Hey, Tiff, this is really, it's neat to see this evolve as it has.
Definitely.
And I love how this plays, and we've got a lot of questions here too, by the way, so we are
I
not done
figured.
yet. Yeah, I love how this plays with, because I do a presentation for ENCO on, disaster recovery, which you've of course alluded to, and as Aaron as well,
Yes.
is
Yep.
that if you've got a DR system running on a server in the cloud, like on AWS, and we have this running ourselves, and your station has, your DAD system running there, and the station has to get vacated immediately for an emergency or something, or power loss or what have you, or a hurricane on the way, you can just thoroughly have all of this control and play out from your web browser at the Starbucks to your AWS playout system, just with WebDAD. And then because you just need an IP connection for audio back to the transmitter, and you're still on the air. So It's
And
so
and yeah, and
powerful.
I know there might be some questions. I tried to not pay attention to that during my presentation, the question bar. But as far as, and you brought this up, Bill, is DAD DR. It is the WebDAD would be basically your interface or access and control if you had the DAD DR or disaster recovery set up. It is something where we actually would be the ones that would have access to the cloud box, but and we host that. But it's definitely something that's worth investing in as more people are looking for a physical place to have it. Transmitter sites. We just had a client within the last couple of weeks who had a lightning strike and fire hit their transmitter site. So their backup there, went down. Luckily, main site was okay, but you have those things happening. So it's an option.
It is. Yeah. And now somebody asked a question and I know it looks like a really clear technical question from the start, but there's a lot of details in the answer, and both you and Aaron, I bet, have a lot of answers to it. What's the advantage of using WebDAD? This HTML native application. What's the advantage of using that instead of TeamViewer, go to my PC, something like that?
Um, well, the first thing that comes to mind is when you remote in using something like TeamViewer, you can't hear the audio. There's no way to do that part of it, so you can't necessarily voice track. Yeah, I mean, and we work with all kinds of setups where people say, well, I create a voice track in some type of an editor, Adobe, etc., and then I just upload it to the system, and then I team view in and I get a look at it and see how it is. The thing is, though, you still can't listen back to that audio once it actually is pushed into that system if you have things set up, to be able to ingest properly using new DB and potentially ENCO and things like that. So that's the number one thing. Another thing is if somebody does happen to be in studio, whether it's production, on air, etc., and you go to team view into that machine, haha.
You're fighting.
You're fighting that. And with WebDAD, and I haven't pointed this out yet, but this is a great place to say this. You can have practically unlimited user profiles, okay? And you can have up to 10 simultaneous users. And that's one really huge benefit to it as well. It's not like one person, one WebDAD license gets you that kind of access to the database remotely. You are not supposed to go in and manipulate the same playlist at the same time. That's a one user kind of a rule. But
That makes
otherwise, you
sense
can
just
have
for
somebody.
contention. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think in studio, it's something I always experienced was best practice is you didn't, even if you had two, say, prod studios, you wouldn't want two people working in the same playlist at the same time, no matter the system, because
Mm-mm.
you're always going to have something that offsets and doesn't update correctly.
No, and the thing is also what's besides these really spacious kind of abilities to access the same DAD system with so many multiple users at the same time. A lot of it is that's speed and efficiency, but so is the fact that it's just HTML and data running through. If you're using a remote desktop, your bandwidth becomes a problem, especially in maybe a
Yeah,
disaster environment. You
yeah,
just don't have that much capacity to really get the full real-time graphic of that screen sent across a network, where WebDAD is a very thin client.
Hmm.
yeah. One of
So
the other things that's really great is basically, I mean, it is web. It's agnostic to OS. So if you're a Linux user or iOS user, Windows, of course, you can use all those different devices
Hmm.
with WebDAD. So it makes it. That's really
yeah.
so you don't
Yeah,
have to really worry about I have to go to this certain PC, log in, and do all that. You can basically do it anywhere.
Right. I mean, of course, as Tiff said early on, if you want to really get into some deep configuration changes within DAD, well, then you can use a remote desktop for that. But if you've got a jock running from a remote or in a DR environment, do you really want them to have all that access? No, probably not. You want to
right.
have them access just what Tiff is showing you here.
Hmm.
Um, and Tiff, Henry had a question about voiceovers for this. I think the difference he means is live VOs versus voice tracking. So, and you talk about that, right? That there's
Right. And that's the thing. One thing that I like to point out here is You cannot go live from WebDAD yet. It is something, I assure you, our development teams are just
Yep.
looking at how this is possible. There's a lot of things security wise that we have to make sure is in place before that's something that could be, truly put out there for public use. So don't count it out. I'm definitely going to put that out there. However, one thing that's possible is if you are working, say, again, remotely, and you do something in an editor, you put in, say, like Adobe Audition. It seems to be very common, but there's multiple out there, and you want to get a voiceover or make it seem live. You can record that, and you can bring that track directly into WebDAD. Then you can take whatever cut number that is and put it right into that playlist and let that play out. So again, not a live thing, but you can actually record those in. And if you don't want it to just be like voice tracked between, because of depending on your standard or what you want to see in that kind of production standpoint, you don't have to. Or you could put it into the mini array panel, pull it up, and fire it off through the WebDAD platform as though you have gone live.
Cool. Yeah.
Yep.
And now separately, Michael Meadows, he had a question that I know you've talked on or touched on this throughout your presentation, but just to kind of to repeat it, he was wondering, with working with WebDAD, can you hear the audio, or you're just looking at it? No, yes, you can see the waveforms, but yes, you can hear the audio as well.
Yes.
So
Yep.
it's
You can hear all of the audio. And go back and verify that. And I don't know, sometimes, I don't know if it worked through this presentation today, but depending on the meeting platform, people can actually hear when I play the audio a lot of times in the WebDAD, but I don't know if that came through today when I was doing the quick
yeah, it did not.
play up.
Yeah,
Okay.
nobody could. Yep. So
Okay. I
that's
apologize. I wasn't
yeah.
sure if that was actually possible
We'll
today.
just tweak that for the next webinar.
Right.
Let's see, Ken had a question about page views, Tiff. Is there a way to set a default view number instead of it being 5 as the default?
Honestly, I know that every time, so if I'm in my library and I set it to 50 and I'm working actively within that page, let's say if I go back to playlist and I come back to library, it holds that. The one place, did everybody see that? You can still see my screen, correct, Bill?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, so when and it will hold that place as I'm in here playing around. Now if I go into the playlist view, that is where that kind of differs a little bit. I'm actually going to pull up this one here, because the playlist view is always defaults to 5, and then you're going to come in and manually open that up. I honestly, unless Aaron knows a little better, if we can actually set that to default to a standard, say every time it's 25 for sure, or it's the full 100. I don't have an answer to that right now. I'm not sure,
Yeah,
but
I
yeah.
I think at this point it is set at 5, but
It's set at 5 as a
yeah.
default when you come into the playlist view, because now, let's say if I decide to exit out of this playlist and I come back in, we're back at 5. So these do default back to the 5, but my actual library, if you notice, the 50, my preferred amount that's viewed on this page and scrollable, has not changed. So it's more the playlist, I think, is specifically restricted on that.
Okay, cool. We got 7's a big number. We're back to 7 here. Quick question. I was going to save it for the end, kind of a general wrap, but it's still. Let me just get this to Bill right away. He asked about SQL, and I know Aaron confirmed offline that we do have support for it. It's just not the default database, right, Aaron?
That's correct, yes. But yeah, we do support it, and there are benefits to it. There's like certain maintenance things are streamlined a little bit with SQL. But to an actual, user, there's really no difference for the actual user. It all looks exactly the same.
Okay, cool. Thanks. And I'm just fiddling with my camera contrast. Okay, back to this. Oh, there's some great questions here. Oh, well, here's interesting. Can you archive programs or program blocks that you've created in WebDAD?
I think, yeah, you can. But it's not like a automated thing. I mean, within WebDAD, you could, if I'm understanding the question, a lot of times the people, will have a specific category, maybe, for their own use, and or even, an archive use, and then having, periodically, you could have a command that would say, okay, everything in this particular group or category be transferred over to another group or even another library. So yes, you can do that. I mean, one of the things, and I should have mentioned it right off the block, is with our DAD command language and other just other the command structure allows you to do astonishingly a lot. I mean, to the point of you can do really everything you could do manually with a mouse and keyboard, you can do with a command. So all of those different scenarios, you can have a macro set up running, and periodically have things set to basically archives, either copy them over to a new category or move them over, to a new category.
Okay, cool. Interesting question here. Is there a direct feed through WebDAD that allows you to monitor the live feed from presenter? I know in the DAD DR architecture, we have a way to do that, a player to monitor a dedicated engineering stream from the playout. But how, Tiff, you're nodding your head. Yep.
Wait, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. A direct feed through WebDAD to monitor the current live feed from presenter.
Well, and that's what this presenter interface is doing. So the biggest thing is if you have this set up and configured to actually access presenter, or like I had said in my presentation, point it at that specific, on-air playout machine, you can. That's exactly what this is intended for, to monitor it, as well as, and I did see, sorry not to kind of jump ahead, but there was a question about if WebDAD doesn't take over the on-air machine, how is it you can manipulate that signal? So the idea being here, if you were sitting in studio, and we're on Bill's radio station now, right? And you're in the main, Bill's in the main on air, and you're looking at the actual DAD on air computer, and I'm in WebDAD, and we're looking at the on air signal. Me moving my mouse around, you're not seeing any of this happening in WebDAD, but if I go like boop, it is going to stop that playlist, and you're going to see that. And then you're going to hit play.
I'll be making a phone call.
Yep, and then you're going to go, and hopefully hit play, and then I'm going to see you have hit play, and then I go, oh, whoop, shouldn't have done that. Okay, and again, so it in taking, it's configured to your database, and then if you have it configured to control presenter, it can then control presenter, but you can also configure it not to do that and just be that front end production and library management playlist creation setup.
There's kind of two questions across Dave and Garrett I'm going to combine. Garrett's curious about the security to use WebDAD for tracking, and does it, how is it secured behind like SSL, secure socket layers, or is there a solution in place where you can point to a cleaner domain than the IP address for the application? And then the related question is how is it licensed? So, and of course, I know that we use really VPN for a lot of that. That really, when you
I was just going to say, that would be the main. That's our preferred way of dealing with that.
Mm-hmm. And also, you can. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yes, you can actually, if you look across this and I highlight the number, you can have this say anything you want. When our support sets this up, it doesn't have to read the specific, IP address numbers out. It could say Tiffany's Chicken Shack, and somebody's like, oh, what is it? And they have no idea what it is. So, we can mask that essentially, and then you set up the VPN. I don't know, Aaron, do you even know of any clients who don't have this set up through a VPN at this point? I think almost everyone I've worked with has done that.
I think there might be a couple, but where they've opened up a port on their, on their network and do it that way. But yeah, like you said, most of the time.
Yeah,
certainly the safest way.
And what was the other part of that?
Well, how is it licensed?
The license, yeah.
How is WebDAD licensed?
Go ahead, Aaron.
I was just going to say, the licensing, it's different than like our normal licensing for DAD is like basically a license per computer we're going to be running on, or but with With WebDAD, it depends on the what. Well, overall is that it's not like licensed like DAD. We only need one license to have access to the library and to the playlist. But if you're looking to control a particular studio or a
Hmm.
particular radio station, I should say, then you need like a WebDAD for every on air, basically.
Right. So like if you had a group, of two or more stations, right? Two main signals. So WXYX, WXYZ, and you want to control both through that presenter, you'd have to have two WebDADs set up in order to do so. But if you just want access to the database, and if they're connected that way and that's not part of your interest, you can just have one WebDAD to get in there to create the content that can then be assigned to those.
So if you're a station with two different streams, let's say HD1, HD2, you'd need two different licenses.
If they need to, yeah, if they're set up to have like the live assist with presenter, absolutely.
Okay, got it. And let's see here. These are some great questions, y'all, and some we just kind of, it takes a little time to make sure if we've answered it already or not. So, bitrate, good question. What's our preferred format bitrate for ingesting audio? Is it MP3? And if so, what's the bitrate, or what? Do we have a preferred single type, or is there
Well,
more?
there are some that we, can't do if it's like really, far as ingesting. I don't know if is this for ingesting audio or for
It is.
web? Okay. Um, I mean, there's like over 30
Adding
different,
music, into the library.
right,
So yeah.
Hmm.
right. There's like over 30 different codecs that we support. And then the bit rate, obviously the higher the better. But we're pretty open there too. And even in playout, we support 44.1 and then 48 also. So
Hmm.
Okay, cool. Oh, and here's kind of a detailed question about presenter. If you're not using it, can you still run the on-air playlist in WebDAD?
you can,
I would.
well,
Well,
actually,
you can.
go
Oh,
ahead,
go ahead,
Tiffany.
Aaron.
I was just going to say there are the
The,
playback decks are
hmm.
in WebDAD, so
Yep,
you
here.
see those as well. So
So
if
if I
you're
pull
using,
up,
yeah.
yeah, if I pull up a playback deck, I can actually go, okay, I need to load up, a different playlist here and get that playing out. I can actually do that. And you actually do have some auto and manual options that you can toggle on and off here. But, essentially it's not a requirement to have presenter to be able to utilize the majority of the features and the intent of WebDAD. It's just an extra feature to give you a little bit of that control over the main on-air signal. So no, it's not a requirement. And I did, just to quickly address it so that I don't miss it, is somebody asked about what version of DAD you need to run WebDAD. Currently, you need to be on at least, our most current version is 20. And that's where you need to be. That's one of the biggest keys, and I think this might be a great place to say this, and then I'll stop talking. It's hard. I love to chat about this, but essentially, with WebDAD, as things get updated, it is very important to update your DAD versions. As WebDAD has develops, because of the type of platform that it is and having that type of access, as WebDAD versions update, DAD versions update, it's very much going to be an in tandem thing that it's going to, and that's one of the other things that adds a kind of a layer of just keeping track of, but also just kind of best practices as new versions come out. So that's just something to keep in mind. All clients that reach out about this, we have to update to the newest version, which right now is 20.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's like any software environment, really. Things that are new and cutting edge will constantly get updates, and
Yep.
that's how many times do we get up a software updates required for our phone or our browser or our car.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
you know, the I'm going to bring up a question that was really at the tail end of the dad session, Aaron, because I hope Fred's still on. But it's sort of kind of relates to both. But For presenters, is there a way to prevent in DAD, and therefore really WebDAD, is there a way to prevent presenters from inserting their own audio, and so forcing them to only play what's permissioned in the, in the library,
Yeah,
or in the playlist to the program, to stick only to what's in
right.
front of them?
Yeah, so you can create multiple profiles, and so you can prevent, people from adding new things to the playlist. I would just warn though, I mean, cases, there's always cases when they do need to add things to the playlist. So you have to kind of look at your workflow. There's ways of mitigating that problem by maybe limiting them to adding audio only from certain groups, let's say, or some other kinds of workflows. But yeah, you can definitely limit. Basically,
Makes
all the
sense.
different parts of DAD can be turned on or off. All the different buttons and all of the different, within presenter, library. There's a whole section in the settings area on cut security and then also like playlist security.
Okay, cool. Yeah. This is sort of a redundant question because but I still want to get it out there because I think it's interesting. Somebody's asking in what situation would they want to use WebDAD versus DAD? I mean, it's such a wonderful tool for portability, remote and DR applications, but even
Hmm.
working on a production down the hallway, it's cost efficient. It's not
Yep.
right. I'm
Yeah,
stealing
and
all your
that's,
words, Tiff.
oh no, not at all. I mean, it's that's the thing is, I think one of the questions on here too that I saw, it's up a little ways, but just asking, what's the situation where it's better to use WebDAD over DAD,
Hmm.
and I think we've addressed it in different ways, but essentially, kind of wherever you need it. There's not always a seat at the production unit. There might not be, and again, if you're a standalone, a smaller peer-to-peer, and even if you're a large server networked, outside of kind of the current world environment, if we look at what it is standard, and that's people in studios and trying to get access to. So this just opens it up. You can be
Yeah.
at your desk, working on something, and pull your laptop up, or if you have a desktop, and you can say, oh, I got to pop this in here, or I just got the new promo from X. Well, now you can just ingest it in, put it in the group for promos, shoot an email off and say, hey guys, the new promos in the promos group, your production guy that goes in studio is ready to launch. So
A
it
lot of
just opens up the world for you.
Exactly. A lot of creative folks. I mean, like in our new Labo in court companies like ENCO and so many other modern companies have huddle spaces and kind of
Yeah.
clustered, little rooms you can go to for privacy, little kind of like those, I'm thinking those eggshell chairs you can
Yes.
kind of, and if you're creative building out your playlist and you want to actually have some privacy, maybe get out of your office, maybe you're in a newsroom sitting environment and that's
Yep.
too busy or noisy. You're with WebDAD, you don't need DAD running on your laptop. You just use WebDAD and just go to another part of your office. And again,
Hmm.
that's really a modern design, and a lot of companies are doing that. Places I've worked
Yeah.
and ENCO's got that in new offices. You can
Yep.
find a little quiet place and have some privacy and build your playlists. So
Yeah, and
yeah,
well, and something I just like to kind of recognize and make sure, and I know I've kind of mentioned this, is WebDAD is not a full-on DAD system, replacement. That wasn't the idea. It was to be an extension of and allow for flexibility, and it's been into, it's kind of developed into this over many years of developing different ideas about it. So that's just something, to keep in mind. I know we'd love to, and there are different things on the horizon. I can tell you record decks or something that's been a request from clients, and just some feedback, and slowly but surely those are going to make their way. The development of this only continues to grow in the future. It's just, putting that time in to make sure it's secure and that it actually is going to function the way it needs to is key for us. So it's not meant to be a back end replacement. I talk with a lot of engineers and IT people about that. It's really to benefit the production aspect, but also, and I'm speaking to all the bosses out there, instead of having to figure out a way to tap in and maybe even just do a remote in, if you have WebDAD, you can pop up and say, did Bill and Aaron get their weekend playlists done? Boom, WebDAD, I'm in. There they are. Let me listen back to a couple things. It's voice track too, and I'm done.
Yeah, unless I'm a slacker, in which case Monday morning early I'll get it done. But um, there's a question here. Well, for one thing, I'm going to go to the last and then the first. Ken was asking, can you ingest new audio through WebDAD? Yes, of course, absolutely. Yep. And
Yes,
then
absolutely.
now one other question, Dana was wondering, is WAV file maybe the best format? I mean, that certainly is the
Yes.
largest. Yeah. Okay, cool. So that's the cleanest, most pristine kind of way to.
Hmm.
Cool. Yeah, because compressed audio, no matter what, has got some artifacts in
WebDAD
it.
will not take MPEG 2.
Eh, Ah, mm-hmm.
Just so we know,
MPEG 2. Yeah,
we've had some situations. I wanted to point that out. So
good to know.
those clients with libraries where it still may even have some mix to it of those, or we've had somewhere, and again, Aaron, I know you can back me up, where they still keep their library dominantly in MPEG, and then they go, but I want WebDAD, and we say you got to convert the whole thing
Ooh,
for WebDAD to be able to process, play, ingesting those cuts, etc. So
oh,
just something to keep in mind. You know, it's like anything where you develop a brand new and you try to keep as much in there as you can, but it's got to do all these other functions. So that was
yeah.
one of the that's a caveat to that.
Yeah, there's little details in any
Hmm.
technology, right? But
Right.
earlier on, if you Garrett had this question about the mini array and scheduling voice tracks within playlists in the scheduler WebDAD. Are there segue adjustments available? I think between those tracks is
You, the segue, you can change segue within, is this within WebDAD or?
Yeah.
yes. Mhm.
Yeah, you can, oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
yeah.
Yeah. And I was actually, if I
Oh,
pull up,
yeah,
um, and not to take up everyone's time, but I know people are very curious. So if we come
yeah.
in here and essentially, so part of that, the segueing, if that's what we're talking about, like the volume on these different cuts. So if you see me pulling this green bar across, that's one way to have the music segue into and out of the voice track, and kind of lower and all of that. But you could actually go in and find the different cuts in the library. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of this. Okay, we're going to go in, and if I come in here, whoop, save it down. I come into my library, there it is. So if I go like this and I say editor, again, we can set segues and do that within the basic editor within WebDAD 2. So it's, there's a way to do a lot of this, and yes, you can do some basic editing in that effect within the WebDAD platform.
And then also like in DAD, you in the playlist, you
Hmm.
can, if you right click on an item in a playlist, you can change the transition from, segue to autoplay to auto load and all of those different ones also.
Cool. We've got 6 more to go here, and this is great. I mean, we're over an hour, well over an hour, but with almost everyone still signed in, this must be still interesting. So we're grateful, guys and gals, for
Definitely.
listening. Until this dries up, we're here for you. So somebody was asking about VPN, Garrett, and specifically, and no, we don't have. Well, I'm not aware that we specify or recommend a specific VPN flavor, but actually, maybe you guys might know that. Do we?
I mean, there's ones we've used before. We don't specifically recommend one, but we'll give you kind of an idea of which direction to go. But there's officially we don't support any one of any one of them.
Cool.
But
And
yeah.
of course, over time, you never know. We may find one that is particularly good, and
Hmm.
and um, and WAV files. Ken was just kind of clarifying 44.1 versus 48K, either one or one of those only.
44.1 is just fine.
Okay.
48K, and I hear about this a lot, unless you're into, and this is from my previous experiences and things that I've done on the production level, is, if you're getting into professional music recording in a studio, yeah, I've seen that, but also it's more television where the audio you're seeing 48K. It's really not absolutely necessary to have 48K when it comes to this. As long as you're at 44.1 wave, 16, and then bit rate can go up 24. You may do a, 32 float. I mean, that's kind of up to you. But as far as the frequency, if you're at 44.1 and you're in a wave, you're good to go.
Cool. And here's a question. I don't know this at all. The answer, I mean, there's many things I don't know. Can you store only 909 or 9,999 cuts in a library, or It should
So
be much bigger, I
the
think.
library and now our bundles at this point include multiple library. So there's actually multiple libraries of up to 99,999 cuts. So multiple library can allow you to expand that. It's kind of like, again, I know we've got WebDAD up here still. So there's different libraries associated with this. So if you have multiple libraries set up with DAD in your database, you can actually go over and I can see the different cut, this is the cuts library, and then I can go into like demo library and ENCO lib. So it's really about how much you want to get into that. And also, let's not forget storage.
That's a lot of material. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Yeah. I guess I better downsample my 96K library to fit.
Yeah.
But Martin, thank you for asking that.
Yes.
So the question about, let's see, a middle one here. Yeah, WebDAD and DAD. I mean, so Keith, as you've been really seeing this, your question about DAD and can it augment, so that WebDAD can augment regular DAD. Absolutely, that's what it's made to be.
Mm-hmm.
Is it takes it, you have to have a DAD installation running for WebDAD to connect to anything, and then it augments and extends it, and really, WebDAD is designed to be more of an enhancement, especially focused on the workflow, that what people do. I mean, goodness gracious, the pandemic, right, Tiff? All of
Yeah.
a sudden, I mean, a
I
year
was
ago,
like,
the phone rang off the hook.
yeah.
I know you worked long days, and especially in those first few weeks with lots of questions, people need remote access, and WebDAD's made
Mm-hmm.
for that. So
Exactly.
yeah, yeah. How many modules do you have, and can they be on separate, different computers? Modules. Fred, if you could elaborate on that, if you a little bit more, that might be helpful if we know exactly what you
Just to touch on that, so I
mean.
mean, I can't tell you the exact number of modules on each license, but or each key. Um, but you can move modules around. So, if you have gateway on one and you need it on another, we can either move it or add it to the license. But basically, with licensing, uh, each module is tied to that one computer. So if so yeah, that's basically the way licensing works. I hope that answered the question at least somewhat.
The on-air bundle, I just counted it, has 34 modules.
This sounds like another webinar just on modules and keys.
I know, we could, let's,
we're down to 2. We're knocking them out.
Yeah.
And is there a way to restrict user permissions to only a range of cut numbers? I mean, certainly in DAD there is, right? How does that work through WebDAD though? I don't know. That's
Well, you can give user rights, right, Tiff, to different users logging in.
Yes. Now with DAD, there's quite a few more things that have been set up to potentially restrict different profiles, just based on the way the specific DAD system and how that works and is configured. With WebDAD, again, and I kind of brought this up earlier just to say there are different restrictions or securities features that we can implement based on the user profile. Some of those are still, being worked out because of it being a web-based platform and how that can, connects and actually translates over to DAD. So, like in the library, so you can absolutely restrict this delete button. It won't make it go away, but if I don't have that permission to delete, it's not gonna let me do anything when I click this button. But, and for example, just to clarify, if I go into a playlist and I say, all right, I'm pulling up this playlist, if I have restriction to like where I can't delete out of the actual database or full library, I can still go into a playlist and delete out of the playlist. Okay, so does that make sense? So there's some little caveats to it based on what actual restrictions you need. And, everyone's a little different, but there are some other things where you would, certain users wouldn't be able to maybe turn on and turn off presenter and restrict that, stop or play button from being accessible. So, there are some different options within that.
The beauty of software.
Aha, yes.
Yeah. And I think, okay, well, so Mike's question there at the top of our list, can you import playlists from traffic and music scheduling programs into WebDAD? How would you do that? Or would you do that at?
Not at this
Mm-mm.
point, no.
Yeah, not yet.
You
Okay.
can create a playlist manually, you know, from the very beginning. But yeah, actually importing through WebDAD is not yet. Though there are different workflows, ways of doing it when you're not at the studio. So you could either use, something like Google Drive or something, and have that one of the folders that our ingest software is looking at, our playlist creation tools are looking at. There's different ways of going about it that we can help you with, but in and of itself, no, you can't do it in WebDAD.
Okay, cool. Yeah, again, it's, but watch this space because it's software. It always,
Right.
it improves, like our automated captioning system, it improves over time. So does WebDAD and DAD. And I think this answer, though, I think for William has already really been answered. Is there a way to restrict user permissions to only a range of cut numbers? I mean, absolutely, right?
Yep,
That,
absolutely.
yeah, a lot of granularity there. And Fred was kind of clarifying on modules, production module, on-air automation, logger, different kind of modules. And I think that's more of a key question.
Yeah, and the on-air, like I said, has 34. The production bundle or license there is slimmed down. I didn't count that one out. But that one doesn't have like presenter because it's a production level, right? So it's not going to have the presenter interface. Instead of 4 standard playback decks, you'll have 1 so that the production machine could stand in as a backup depending on the circumstance to the on-air. What have you, and then 4 record decks and a lot of those features. So I think that one's slimmed down somewhere to 28 or 29, again, giving you a lot of the same features, but all of those production elements and networking elements that you'll need. We have a server bundle, admin bundle, and again, depending on what that function needs, that's what those bundles have been created to accommodate.
That reminds me, that's kind of been the legacy of ENCO. It's been modular because some applications, not everybody needs everything.
Right.
So, that if you get a whole bundled system with all kinds of stuff you don't need, you're spending a lot of money that you don't need to spend.
Right.
So you have that granularity.
And we do have levels too, where if, we have some packages for LP stations and, streaming stations where the need is for 1 signal, and some very basic, modules. I say basic, and in relation to the DAD system, I feel like you can do so much that even a slimmed down license is going to give you a lot of opportunity. But there's some different things that we have in place that can help on the, be a little more economical, that were set up. Again, one of the examples being our LP package, which is focused on LP stations and potentially, startup streams or a streaming station that has just the need for 1 signal. Yep.
Cool. And Dana, great question about video and training, or materials in general. She's asking, do we have additional training or instruction videos on our website? We do, and our support site. And we've been creating a new library over the last year since COVID hit. We got out the video camera and the light kit and started making a lot of videos, and there's a lot more to come. So yes, there are tutorials, and I myself, Tiff, am going to watch this again, your presentation, because I need to learn more about WebDAD, and so thank you in advance for teaching me.
Absolutely, yeah. And Bill, you for the last year have been up on a lot of ladders, getting setting up our to create our new videos and stuff. So yeah, there are, like you said, and if you are actually DAD customers or ENCO clients, you have access to different things through our portal and forum. So that's also something that I like to throw out there and keep in mind for a lot of helpful tips and tricks and things like that.
Yeah, and the whole forum and everything, exactly. Fred's got 3 questions here, and so you guys might want to take a look. I think you might have answered some of this.
If you control them on this.
So, and these are into the weeds about WebDAD, so I'm not going to be able to.
Well, I think Fred is asking still about controlling all of the modules on the same computer, won't that inconvenience users or like a presenter? I think if I understand, let's see, where you can have different people sending audio without importing into the system directly, but use network folders. Aaron, does that make sense to you how that's being asked?
I mean, which question was
Well,
Fred,
because what
right?
I'm thinking is Fred, you know, if we have, depending on how things are configured and networked, so that has, so if you have something where you got a standalone operation,
Hmm.
you're going to have a nice big beefy, hopefully, right, our recommendation and hopefully ENCO provided, but computer, a robust workstation that can handle basically doing all of the load of a server, the on-air playout, and live assist, as well as production. And so, yeah, you definitely, I mean, as long as the hardware is what it needs to be to run those elements, you don't generally aren't going to have major issues. You know, in a standalone environment, multiple people trying to do multiple things, that in and of itself creates issues that aren't necessarily related to your software and hardware. If you're in a network on a peer-to-peer, let's say an on-air and a production, you would have people, you know, there's different things where like utilities, or what I like to call more the utilities files. So if you have gateway set up, you're doing something like that, like you can kind of configure this to take some of the load off of that on-air depending on what's needed in that functionality. So that's kind of there's such a wide range of ways to answer that. Right, Aaron? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's no one, it's like, okay, there's no one specific way. We can have 100 standalone operations and they all have a little bit of different configuration because the needs are different.
right.
Right, right. And a parallel thought is just a reminder that one WebDAD system can host one DAD system can host multiple concurrent WebDAD
Right.
sessions into it if they're doing different things.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm glad you mentioned that, yeah, because that was one of the things, because there was like a question about HD1 and 2 and
Oh,
in
yeah.
reference to like WebDAD. And one of the things, just to kind of clarify, with kind of the way WebDAD works with a particular system. So let's say you're a public station, you have your main channel and HD1 and 2, and maybe 1 and 2 are both, you know, completely automated, or maybe they just have different IDs and stuff like that, and weathers. And so all of the different playlists you have going on a single DAD license will be available on a single version of WebDAD. So if you have,
Yes.
you know, your presenter going and then a couple playback decks, all of those playback decks on that single machine are going to be available. So that may have
Cool.
been already out there, but I just wanted to make sure that was clarified.
Cool. And it's good because after an hour and a half of talking about this, it's you know, yeah, if only these little buttons we could do, like send a little poke to the mouse of everybody that's still on and say, "You there? You there?" You know,
Yeah, right. Well,
hopefully
you
they
can
didn't put you
see
to
that.
sleep, right?
Yeah, there is actually is a bar where you can see audience view where people are actively actually on the webinar screen versus clicking through different browser screens. I didn't know
Yeah,
if maybe some of you out there don't realize that, but I can see it go 100% 60, 100% 37, 100%.
that's right. The attention, they call it the attentive scale,
Yeah. Well, I
right?
can, you know, it's like I can listen and do other things, I suppose, but yeah, it's really cool to see so many people still actively on here and asking these questions because I think there's just a lot of confusion sometimes or trying to figure out the uh oh
Yep. Oh, yeah. No,
oh
I'm just
okay, it switched
segueing.
there. Okay, I was like, oh
Yep.
my goodness.
Well, I
But
want to
yeah,
put your name back up there, Tiff, because you know, somebody may still have questions for you specifically, your email, or your
yeah,
phone right there.
yeah.
Um,
Shoot
and
me emails. Let me know what your thoughts are if we want to set up and just have a chat, you know?
Yep,
Again,
and there's
I'd love that.
Aaron's info as well, also. So, and okay, Fred's got a little follow up here.
Sure.
It looks like I'd say he's our last question, and so we might be wrapping this up. Either that
Okay.
or time for dinner. Who's ordering
Right.
pizza?
Right.
Or lunch, perhaps on the West Coast. So,
Okay.
Fred, you were a
Import.
detailed questioner. This is great.
Yeah. Import content from a variety of sources.
I mean,
Is
just to know
yeah.
that all of those different things that I'm seeing so far, like, FTP sites, Content Depot, we all have specific applications for, and like EnConveyor can do, and there's actually a specific Content Depot app that will import all of that stuff, with metadata. Um,
Yep.
So I'm
Everything.
everything you've mentioned so far, like the Jones services, like, pulling
Yep.
audio from receivers and all of that kind of thing. We have a
We.
solution
Yeah.
for the Adobe Audition thing. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
sorry, Tiff, I'm babbling
No,
on.
that's okay. I did. I read through this. Like you said, everything I see on here, FTP sites, network folders, production, how, any of that, you've got and conveyor monitoring, pulling things in, and then new DB helps monitor all of that and actually ingest it in. We've got ways to pull in different feeds, through DAD and have that configured. We actually have a multi-track button built into DAD to be able to pull Adobe Audition up within the DAD system and integrate directly with it. And
Didn't
that
know
is,
that.
yeah, it's a really cool feature where instead of like getting out of DAD, going into Adobe, opening up a session, and then doing the whole mix down and then moving it into a folder or ingesting it into DAD, pulling it back up and hoping it's all right, click that button, opens Adobe, save it, and the cut is edited right away. Cuts out three, 4 steps depending on your setup. But yeah, I mean, we do newsroom applications, absolutely. We integrate with music and scheduling, traffic and logging programs.
Yeah,
From my
that's
experience, I don't know what we don't configure with or
my
integrate with.
home
That may,
automation system can even be controlled through GPIO if you need to,
Yeah,
right? Or
exactly.
let the pizza delivery person in at 2 in the
Yeah,
morning by hitting the
dad.
presenter button.
Yeah, data is so complex that it's not uncommon to hear that you can have it turn the lights on in the studio and start the coffee pot for you.
Literally, I mean, adjust the lighting
Literally.
because, we can interface through so many things with virtual and real GPIOs and script data. And oh my
scripts, and
God,
then there's also,
it's so
like, because
systems.
you mentioned newsroom, the MOS interface. So like a lot of newsroom software, ENPS, iNews, Octopus, and others that use the MOS interface,
Yep.
or the MOS protocol, I should say, we can interface with.
And what's cool with ENCO, because we're a multi-platform company, where we have this automated captioning system that I spent a lot of time with, that can integrate again with all those newsroom automation systems as well. So sometimes we do development for one product that helps like DAD, and then other DAD
Right,
developments help the caption product and what have you. So there's
right.
that cross-pollination. So yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
Music Master, by the way, Mike, Music Master, great
Oh
question.
yeah. Yep.
Yep,
Absolutely.
we sure do. Yep, absolutely. Um,
Yep. That's actually
and
one of we're the
you
very
bet,
good
Mike.
partner, longtime partner with ENCO. And we have many clients who integrate Music Master. We actually have a mod or bit that can actually integrate with both systems to have bidirectional communication in order to constantly be sharing between the Music Master system and the DAD system to really hone in and create those playlists that you're looking to do.
So Ken's got a specific question here. He's in a satellite
Mhm.
office and he uses VPN to connect to the main DAD system across cities. Would WebDAD be better to do that with? I mean, we might need more detail there, but
Yeah, I was gonna say, Ken, if you have, if you can say specifically, if you're doing that front end, some of that voice tracking, you're ingesting things, you're monitoring playlists, things like that, WebDAD's an incredible tool because it can also, allow you flexibility beyond just being in a different city. But again, I like to also always ask what your goal is, because if it's back end and your responsibility is to adjust one of the applications, again, I bring up like Dropbox or new DB, I should say, or Gateway or something like that, you're not going to be able to tap into that and say, I hate to say fix, but modify those back end applications through the WebDAD platform.
and I might suggest we could take this offline and Ken either drop an email to Tiffany or we'll have your email address from your registration. We can contact you and have a more of a
Hosting,
detailed nuts and bolts
yeah.
conversation.
He says hosting a live morning show.
Oh, see that popped up.
So
Okay.
Ken, do you have a like a what is it, like Comrex, a timeline setup that's integrating to allow you to go live currently?
This has become a one-on-one video session.
I knew it. So if you have that
Highline, yes.
set up, you could absolutely have WebDAD running to be able to look at presenter and see what's going on and control that. That's absolutely an option for you.
This is cool.
I know, this is fun.
Yeah, yeah,
And we
I
still
love
have 40
it.
people on here.
Yeah, I know, right?
Very cool.
Well, well, it's funny when hosting a morning show. I was thinking that Ken was suggesting we should host a morning show. You know, we could do WebDAD in the morning.
I can dig that, right? Instead of like, what is it, like coffee and donuts, it'd be like WebDAD and I don't know, WebDAD and the Three Stooges of
Muffins,
ENCO.
right?
No,
Yes, definitely. If I'm there, it's got to have at least one stooge. Right,
Yeah,
WebDAD and breakfast burritos. How
I'll
right, right.
do the 9 to midnight show.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, I know we want to actually keep going because it's campy, but it's fun to see my colleagues and so many still customers or interested folks connected. So, but I
Yeah.
think we probably should wrap this up.
I will leave on this. WebDAD and Bloody Marys from Dana.
Dana.
Yep, I'm in.
And Ken, we might need your marketing services. Okay, cool.
Right. Oh, this has been really fun, everyone. And Bill, thank you so much for doing all the hard work to go into these and
I
that,
love
setting
working
this
with you
stuff up.
guys. Thank you for making it fun. Because Tiff, you're our newest webinar celebrity. So you've done it.
Yay!
You cracked the code.
I'll do it again.
Yeah, you got it. You got it.
Cool.
Well, yeah. So now we have to sing the goodbye song. No, just kidding. At this point, I think I just click this button and we just go bye-bye. But thank you again for
Yes,
everything.
thanks Bill, thanks Tiff.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you
It's been
guys and
fun.
everyone. Again, you've got our info. Reach out, shoot an email, give a call.
Absolutely. Yep. We're here because you care. So thank you for your customers, for your business for so many years or taking a look now for maybe something new. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.